Let's do a hard segue. And we'll talk about what's going on with the truckers. We got this story from Global News. Crossing delayed Monday at Manitoba U.S. border as truckers protest vaccine mandate. Have you guys seen this? A bunch of truckers blocked both directions, the Canadian-U.S. border, so that it was difficult to enter and difficult to leave, because Canada is going to be imposing a vaccine mandate where if you are a U.S. citizen, a trucker, you can't enter Canada unless you're vaccinated. And if you're a Canadian trucker and you enter and you're not vaccinated, you have to quarantine. So naturally, people are protesting. And at a time when there's already shortages, at a time when the policies in this regard have already failed, it seems like, I'm sorry, man, I know people don't like hearing it, but it's almost intentional gutting of the system, because truckers aren't going to go for this. And without them, you won't get food. So why do it?
It's like they're trying to destroy the economy on purpose. It's like they're trying to have something like a great reset. It's like they're trying to destroy the current system that we're living under in order to rebuild back a new one that works in their favor. And I think chaos is the name of the game. I think that's what they're trying to achieve. There's always this kind of prevailing idea of order out of chaos. And if you look at a lot of the moves that governments have been making throughout human history, those are the moves that they're making. They create chaos. They thrive off that situation. They create the problem. They have a reaction that they know is going to be created by it. And of course, then they bring in the solution, which works in their favor, because there's no explanation. This is not based on any. Why are they doing this? There's no science. There's no data. There's no information saying that this is going to help anyone except destroy the economy.
We got the story from Timcast. Federal government moves forward with program that permits teens to become truck drivers. The trucking industry is in need of an estimated 80,000 drivers. So what's the plan? Teenagers are more likely to get the vax, so the truckers who quit over the vax mandate will be replaced by teenagers? Is that what's happening? I got to say, man, look, I feel like a chicken in a chicken coop. I got no idea what their plan is. It doesn't make sense. People are taking dumps in their water and then claiming they're not. And I'm just like, let me just say, people underestimate how clowned out the clown world is. There's a video I tweeted about some person saying their pronouns are clown and clown self. And I'm like, yeah, that about explains it.
Yep, that's right.
I'm thinking about the bombing of London. You brought this up last week during the Blitzkrieg.
Mike Rowe brought it up.
Yeah, Mike Rowe brought this up. And that after a few days of bombing, they just climbed out of the basement and got back to life as normal, because you have no other choice. It was a real emergency. You had to take back control of your life. This isn't... Okay, I don't want to step out. I don't want to say something that I regret later, but this is not the bombing of London, what we're going through right now. People are not getting their bodies exploded and running for their life. So... Is this a real emergency?
Rat utopia.
I'm sorry. When you compare it to war, it's not like that.
The rat hope experiment. They put us under lockdown. Everyone panics, begins to go nuts. Then they take us out, dry us off, put us back in, and then we swim for 60 hours.
Yeah, if this was a real emergency, we wouldn't be waiting for authority to give us the go-ahead.
Well, to play devil's advocate, and I'm not saying that this is what I believe, I'm just saying, is there any other reason why they would be doing this? I absolutely believe there are people in power who are doing this for control, for authority. But I'm wondering, aren't there people in positions of power who genuinely believe it themselves and are just as caught as people watching MSNBC and genuinely believe that this is going to work? Through their arrogance and their certainty about their version of reality, they think that if they do this, they are going to get people to get vaccinated. I'm not saying it's right, but is it possible that it's not always sinister? It's not always nefarious and manipulative. It's actually just people who are also programmed.
Well, we got a problem because there's a zombie horde taking over, and they're marching through the streets. They're unable to tell. You know what it is? I explained this of Jack Dorsey. He creates Twitter. Twitter creates fertile ground for the refuse of the far left broken ideologies. Jack Dorsey, having created Twitter and now following people who are trapped in the sewer of Twitter, he begins drinking his own refuse and believing his own insanity. And then his opinions get shaped thinking this is reality, when in reality he made a big toilet for people to take dumps into with their garbage ideas. He absorbs those garbage ideas, thinks they're real. So what we have is there's a possibility that there is a cabal of powerful individuals who are pulling the strings with big corporate donations, with lobbying and things like that. And I think that's true, obviously, to a certain extent, but it's entirely possible that crackpot idiots on CNN follow other crackpot idiots and they recycle information, playing a big game of telephone. And then here's what happens. Somebody writes an article And they're like, I need clicks. So they're like, I think Trump is a fascist. So Trump behaving like a fascist? Print. Then their friend following them sees it and they go, did you read that article talking about Trump acting like a fascist? You know, it's pretty fascistic. So then this guy then writes an article saying Trump is a fascist. Then his friend sees it and says, whoa, Trump is like the fascists. He's like Mussolini. Then he writes Trump is like Mussolini. Then someone sees it and says, no, not like Mussolini. He's like Hitler. Then they write Trump is like Hitler. Then someone else says like Trump is as bad as Hitler. And then someone goes, he's worse. They're all just basically swimming in a circle of their own sewage, exciting themselves. And then after a week of telephone, they're all screaming that Trump is the reemergence of Hitler. And it's like, yo, you guys are nuts. Calm down. Stop drinking each other's waste and just actually get out there and talk to real people. They don't do it. So now they're screaming. Bill Maher brings it up that Democrats were polled and they were asked what the likelihood was, percentage-wise, of needing hospitalization if you get COVID. And they said 50%. And he was like, what? Republicans and independent voters got it right, 5%. But these are people who believe each other, hyping each other up, constantly one-upping garbage fake news until they're like, lock the whole country down, burn to the ground, otherwise everyone dies. They are running around screaming the sky is falling, and for some reason we've been listening to them and arguing with them instead of just excising them from political discourse and saying, do whatever you want, I'll be over here living.
I disagree with both of you guys. Surprise, surprise. I believe it's a conspiracy because for this kind of ignorance to be perpetrated, right? I'm not saying it's not. I might be wrong. But for this type of policy to be implemented because of popular support, the people have to say to themselves, the vaccine mandates worked so great that we have to implement more vaccine mandates. And I think it's pretty clear to the average person paying attention that they absolutely didn't. I mean, there's even Trudeau and Fauci coming out on record saying that these mandates, these vaccine mandates, aren't about health. They're about convincing other people to take the shot. So this kind of fervent policy making that clearly is disrupting the economy, clearly is going to have negative effects when already the store shelves are barren in some places, when already the supply chain has been disrupted. Asking for more supply chain disruptions is literally creating chaos. So I'm sticking to what I personally believe in. That's my personal feeling, and I could be wrong because I don't think it's idiots leading the herd. I think it's a few powerful people creating the idiots that are bringing them along, but there's not a lot of them still when it comes to the bigger official story of COVID, which is breaking.
Let's make a short film. Zombie apocalypse happens. And it's like, it starts off very much like a zombie movie. It's like, run, get the shotgun. Oh, Jesus, zombies are coming. And then we'll have Ian be like, I was listening to what they were saying. I kind of agree. I'm going to go join them. And we're like, no, Ian.
I'm
and he
just
walks
going to go
outside.
talk to them. I'll be back. You think I should just full on just go join them? Be
like, it kind of makes
Tim,
sense.
I'll come in the middle of the night. I'll wake you up. Tim, I've been listening to the zombies.
They've been telling me.
Right.
I don't have to make any tough decisions.
No, you got to be like,
it's easier.
They've been saying brains so much. I kind of wonder if eating brains does make sense. I think we should consider, like, Ian, you're turning into one of them, and they don't actually bite you to make you a zombie. You just listen to them enough, and then you start believing brains. And
I've been listening to it on repeat on YouTube, too.
All the zombies, they actually aren't infected with anything. They're just all scared to step out of line because the other zombies will attack them if they act like they're not zombies. So it's actually a horde of people pretending to be zombies.
That's mass formation psychosis.
That would be actually a funny little skit to do, where it's just like a bunch of people who are like, I'm a zombie, and no one dare step out of line. And then one guy goes, wait a minute, you guys aren't actually zombies? And they're like, brains! And they attack them, and they're all looking around like, oh, I'm a zombie.
Oh, yeah, I got a question for you guys. Justin Trudeau, is he evil mastermind, or is he fool that's being provoked by the evil mastermind?
He seems like a mastermind to me. I don't know how blatantly he's just willing to say, like, yeah, we're going to violate your rights. We don't. And maybe he's just so far gone that he thinks that's acceptable, because I know there are a lot of people who feel that way. But he was dealing arms to the Saudis for years, and it's been well documented how their human rights track record and what they do in Yemen. And he had no problem arming them.
Yeah, he's true and authoritarian. He's a communist. He loves centralization. He was literally cheerleading China because of the way that they run their economy. China literally destroys human rights for their economy, and this is something that Trudeau openly praises and looks up to. So I wouldn't even say mastermind or puppet. I would say sociopath that's been put in a position of power, that's playing out the agenda of the World Economic Forum, of the Davos Group, and is reading the handbook and following every single procedure that they ask him to follow.
I don't know his dad, but his dad was the prime minister before him.
Yeah.
Fidel Castro?
Yeah.
His father, Fidel.
Fidel?
It's a joke.
Was his dad notoriously authoritarian? Or I don't know.
People keep posting photos of him next to Fidel Castro.
really looks
He
Very
looks
similar.
like Fidel Castro.
Yeah.
You
Let's
look
be
like
real.
Putin. I'm not going to hold it against
I
you.
do look like Putin. And if Putin, Bill Maher, and Julian Assange had a love child, I would pop out. But that's a different story. But I don't think I'm related to Putin. Who knows? I do look
I hope
like
you
him.
are.
But this would explain why he's an authoritarian communist, because Fidel was an authoritarian communist.
There's like a long lost autobiography from Putin where he talks about how he once ventured to Poland in the mid 80s and had an affair.
Like, Luke,
and he's like,
I am your father.
Yeah.
Well, I was a part of the resistance against the Soviet Union, so when Putin was a KGB agent, my family was going up against the communists, a part of the Solidarność movement in northern Poland and Gdańsk.
What if there was like a whirlwind affair where Vladimir is like, I cannot be with you. It is forbidden.
So there could be a Star Wars movie here with me and Putin being on opposing sides, and then my family helping take down the Soviet Union, which of course is the evil empire, which Putin was a KGB agent of. That is possible.
I think the better story is that Putin had a series of clones made when he was in the KGB,
Yeah.
and then like
In
they
case
were
I
supposed
fail,
to be
they will
destroyed.
succeed.
Yeah, and Luke is programmed to be activated as a sleeper agent for the Soviet Union among the proper.
We'll make a
friends.
clone with different mindsets.
Yeah.
One is very anarchist.
This is very important news we're discussing right now.
Yeah,
concerning
it's
the
very
world.
important.
There are a lot of people who I see comments when they're saying, it's too pessimistic to talk about things falling apart, and I'm like, what should we talk about? No, I mean that sincerely. Like, I think watching the media collapse is not bad news. I think it's a good thing.
I
Yeah.
find that watching CNN, trying to think your way out of the psychosis doesn't work. It's like no thought is the way to get away from that stuff, which is why I usually turn off the TV. Step outside or something.
If you turn the TV off and go outside and ignore the mainstream media and just say like tend to your goats or chickens for a week, when you turn the TV on, it'll be like watching Saturn. It'll be a different planet. You'll be like, what? What are they talking about? Because the news changes so rapidly these days. If you listen to Dr. Fauci, I mentioned this, a while back. He'll come out and he'll be like, you don't need to be wearing 2 masks. But then 3 days later, he's like, you should be wearing 2 masks. And then you get one person who watched one story and then didn't see the update, and the other person who sees the update, and now they're arguing online about who's right and who's wrong. And it's like, yo.
I bet you could spend 7 days away and miss the news cycle changing 3 times and come back and not even know it changed and have nothing to argue about.
Well, I think, I think it'll be like, Fauci will come out. I mean, Joe Biden comes out. Joe Biden said that the vaccines would stop the spread of the pandemic.
Yeah.
That's not what they're saying now.
Yep.
So if you were someone who passively watched the news and heard Biden say that, you'd be like, oh, how about that? Today you turn the news on and they're saying something totally different. You'd be like, what? Did I go into the Twilight Zone or something? Do these people forget? Do they have amnesia? That's the funniest thing. When there are people on Twitter tweeting at me being like, the vaccines do X. And I'm like, that's not what Joe Biden or Fauci or the CDC director said 3 months ago. I understand science changes, but isn't it a bit too rapid? Because if it is changing this rapidly, then there's no plan, and it's very likely to change again.
Yeah. You have to be... Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I'll just go really quickly. You have to be traumatized to believe the official story, and there's a lot of people who are traumatized that the corporate media and the politicians scare the crap out of every single day, and that's the only way that they could get them in a state that's irrational, not paying attention, and has them going along with the big overlord state saying, we will protect you, when, of course, they're doing the complete opposite of that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's like, okay, yes, science does change, but it would go a very long way if the people who are constantly changing the opinions could just acknowledge, oh, okay, well, it changed, it's wrong. And you don't see that. You see people getting gaslit and people being blamed and being shamed for questioning things when it's always changing. Like, how can you not have a healthy level of skepticism? You're allowed to notice that there are discrepancies. And sure, okay, science may explain that, but if you could just drop the arrogance and the hubris about it, I think they would have a lot better chance of communicating with people they think need to hear it.
Wasn't it our good friend Ethan Klein who said you don't even need to think?
That's right.
Didn't he say that?
That's why.
He said you just go to the
Direct
government's
quote.
website. You don't even need to think.
Just do what the government tells you.
I'm
Life
like,
will be
wow.
easier.
I mean, I kind of read history books when I was growing up. And you don't do that. In fact, We were always told that
Opposite.
dissent was patriotic in this country. Now you have this massive group of people who are like, dissent is insurrection, is wrong. Don't do it. Just do what you're told. This is the funny thing about the vaccine mandates. When they say the vaccine mandates work, but New York is experiencing a major surge in COVID cases, what they're really saying is the vaccines force people to get vaccinated.
The mandates do.
I'm sorry. The mandates work. And what they mean is it's forcing people to get it. I thought they meant, or initially, and I probably shouldn't assume this, that it was going to actually stem the spread because Joe Biden said that.
Right.
Now they're saying that's not the case. It's to reduce the severity. And I'm like, well, the hospitals are overloaded, fact. And there's record-breaking amounts of COVID, also a fact. Tons of people are getting it. I mean, Glenn Beck had it recently. Mike Rowe mentioned he had it over Christmas. I think Crowder had it. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, he did.
Everybody's getting it. So now they're saying, well, it was never supposed to stop the spread. It was supposed to reduce the severity of symptoms. And I'm like,
You said.
Joe Biden actually said that it would all be over. They actually said several times, once everyone gets vaccinated, you don't got to wear masks and the pandemic will end. And it's not ending. Now, I think it's fair to say, okay, maybe they got it wrong. But at a certain point, they should be like, it's probably going to change. We don't know for sure. But everyone's so sure of themselves.
Yeah, they didn't know that it had waning immunity. So how did they know anything else surrounding this
Or
very specific?
efficacy.
Yeah. Exactly, the same thing, pretty much. But the official story has changed so many times. These bureaucrats have flip-flopped so many times. It's difficult to even understand where we're at right now. And I think the strategy that they're implementing right now is let's just spin people around so they get confused, that don't know what's going on, and it's all going to be scary unless you just obey us. That's the policy that they have implemented because it's only going to be a certain time now where people are going to be like, okay, I'm going to stop spinning now. I'm going to start paying attention to what's going on here because we've been bamboozled. We've been lied to, and I think this larger mass awakening is happening, and it's going to have some very severe effects on our society and our political system. This is why the Democrats are giving up COVID, in my opinion, right before this upcoming election, because they can't win with this policy that has destroyed people's lives and only enriched the billionaire class. They can't. I don't
think people want to accept that when I say, not everybody, just there are some people who don't accept when I say that the country is breaking apart or that states are breaking apart. I don't see that as a bad thing. I mean, Luke brought up peaceful divorce a while ago. Michael Malice has talked about it. So Hawaii recently announced that you need a booster shot to enter the state. California wants to double their taxes so they can pay for universal health care. Well, obviously, California will struggle to make that work. I mean, they're going to require heavy subsidy. Rich people are just going to walk out of the state. Then they're going to try and tax them 10 years after the fact. That's one thing they announced. And then you're going to see a bunch of poor people flood into the state to get free health care. Clearly doesn't work, but hey, let people go to the state they want with the laws they want. People will leave. If there ends up being some kind of fracturing of this country, it means, I'm going to go to West Virginia. I'm going to have all my guns. I'll be very pleased and happy. And then the people who don't like guns and want them banned can go to California. And then they can have free health care. What's the problem? How is that a bad thing?
What about artillery?
All of it legalized.
Artillery can fire across state lines. What if it's banned
in
one state, but it's legal in the other state?
Well, that's too bad for the state that banned it, I guess.
That sounds like an arms race.
Whatever.
Yeah.
War is bad. Don't go
anarchist.
to war. Yeah, I don't look.
Hey,
Damn
sometimes
right.
you don't
Damn
choose
right,
to go
Ian.
to war. Sometimes war comes to you.
Thomas Massey tweeted, "What piece of Second Amendment legislation should we push if we take control?" And everyone was like, "Abolish the ATF, repeal the NFA." And I'm like, "Yes, those things." I went further and I said, gun mandates. If you want to go out to a diner, you got to have proof of gun, and you've got to be able to show that it's loaded. And
Proof of gun.
Proof of gun. So you'll walk up to the diner and they'll be like, "We have a gun mandate in this city. If you want to come in, you have to be armed." And you'll be like, "Oh, I've got my 1911 right here."
I've got my proof on my right.
I've got a revolver. Let me show you my 38 or whatever. And you can walk in maybe with the right. You got to have a gun. Gun mandates. Mandatory gun ownership. Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Now, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.